All right. Welcome back to another episode of Practical Spiritual Advice, which is me, which is you, which is we. So buckle on up for another episode of this Practical Spiritual Advice. Now, my name is Harold Honow, and I'm going to be your host and your guide for today. Today is episode number 36, and this one is titled Beneath the Surface, the Hidden Pulse of San Antonio. All right. So, what the F, man? Beneath the surface, the hidden pulse of San Antonio. You know that's where I live, right? That's my home base. That's the place where I'm destined to be, where I've been at, where I had my spiritual awakening. I moved here at the age of 12, and it's been a journey from 12 to 33. We've traveled through addiction. We've traveled through, you know, death, and all these different notions of life, and finding ourselves and finding the things that make us who we are. And so my awakening at 33 led me to some very crazy places. And and I say crazy not in the a sense of like, oh, super crazy where there were bombs going off, and all kinds of things like that. Now these are crazy in the spiritual sense of, when we go back now and we close these loops, we find out that there's this larger cosmic game at play, and a lot of hidden information that has now circled back around. All right, now this city, San Antonio, for me it's the holder of a lot of secrets. And so I want to take y'all outside the city here for a minute and use your imagination to kind of guide through this landscape of enchanted rock and the hill country. Now, for those that are not familiar with enchanted rock, it is essentially it's a 420-foot tall granite dome, with two smaller domes on the side of it. And this enchanted rock, and even what you see is not most of the rock. A lot of it is underneath the earth, and it is part of a slower process of lava turning back into stone, and not being in its magma state. Now, this granite dome has a bunch of crystals in it, and metal, and there's stories of this granite dome. Now I know it has caves. I've gone through the caves. There's one that you can go in one side and come out on the other, and it's not too difficult of a journey. It doesn't take that long. It's maybe like 20-30 minutes. And then there's deeper caves that you can go into, basically the belly of this rock, this granite rock that's made of crystals. And so there's stories of larger crystals, crystal points, quartz and tourmaline, and all these other types of crystals within this big dome, and these caves, this cave system. And the surrounding area, it's granite gravel. And so if you've never been, I want you to imagine that when you would go to the top of this sacred site, that there were stone circles on the top of it, that there were ceremonies. And I mean, you can see across the hill country from the top of this granite dome. And there's water pools that gather on the top of this dome as it flattens out at the top. And because it is made of all these different crystals, it is, it's said to expand with the heat. And whenever it cools at sunset, it shrinks again. And so they say it lets off this slight greenish, bluish hue, and almost like it has its own aura that you can see with the naked eye. It's not just something that's a tale. It's like something that people notice every once in a while on a good sunny day, that this granite dome emits an aura and a color. And so some of this information takes us to sacred sites that hold a lot of secrets, and it's not, and that they connect to San Antonio. So first of all, Enchanted Rock is in the center of, it's essentially in the heart of Texas. So when you look at a map of Texas and you notice pretty much the center, you will find Enchanted Rock. And its topography, and it's about an hour and a half or so away from San Antonio, about an hour away from Austin. And it's said to be connected to some water ley lines, some telluric ley lines that connect the Mayan ruins to this natural sacred site, this you know complex of like crystals and caves and gems, and an energy that ebbs and flows with the sun, right? It expands and it contracts. This is Enchanted Rock. And its connection to San Antonio, this revelation of the stuff that I've come to understand as part of our ancient past, not just in this area but for the planet. And we start talking about some really monumental subjects that are really not in the mainstream. These are definitely part of the fray. We talk about Tartaria and an ancient empire and civilization that may have been wiped out with a mud flood. I don't even know what that would look like exactly, but when I see examples within my own world, some erosion stuff happening on as simple as my driveway and the sidewalk in the front yard, I see signs of what happens when water takes over any roads, land. And so San Antonio's geography, its placement, with what some would describe as a mud flood type of situation, where you see a lot of the older buildings buried, where their windows are just peeking out of the ground when you walk around this building, and you wonder why would they build beneath the ground and put a window here into the sidewalk. And you would notice that someone backfilled the area with land, with dirt. And what if that's just remnants of this like secret that's hidden underneath the concrete, underneath the buildings. You even find that some of the stories of the Alamo just don't make sense with the timeline, and how they portray this place as just this barren space where there weren't buildings here before. And why did San Antonio have 5 military bases at one time? When we talk about Enchanted Rock and we mention this connection to ancient plumes of energy and a sacred site that contracts and expands with the sun and lets off its own aura in the heart of Texas, an hour and a half away from, San Antonio, this other place that now that I've, run my process of looking back at what I've experienced here and the stories that I've heard and the ideas that I have on a global reset, you see a bunch of signs here. And, like Hot Wells ruins, for anybody that wants to do a little Wikipedia deep dive into the Hot Wells ruins of San Antonio, you would find a lot of crazy stories of, celebrities that would hang out there, and criminals, right? Like, I think Bonnie and Clyde were said to have gone through there, and um, you know, railroad tycoons that or railroad tycoon that owned the property, and how many times did that place get burned down, and this bathhouse and celebrity hangout and criminal, hangout and silent film, starting point of the starting films were at this location, and it was a big mansion, and the railroad tycoon, I forget his name, but back in the day he had the railroad, you know, detoured and trekked right to his home. And then across the road you find an insane asylum and international fairs where the top of the headline is incubator babies, and on sacred dates like my birthday 11/22 but 1888, 10-day long events, international fairs where people would come and gather, and that's just how Wells ruins. If you look at like the Alamo itself, it's not what it's portrayed to be. There's not stories but documentation of the Alamo not looking like you would see. It looked more like a fort, like a maybe it was some ancient Tartarian stuff, but there were jokes about how the people made fun of the way the military redid this mission, this fort, I think is what it was, the Mission de Valero. And not only that, the missions are not even that old themselves. They're indoctrination camps, if you will. These are churches and places for the Catholic religion to spread itself through the Spanish, colonization. And so, what is San Antonio? And again, why did it have five military bases? Five military bases all in one space. Some of the stories that we find are layers of lead underneath all of the downtown area. Why is that? Why is there a layer of lead? I'm an alchemist. I'm a spiritual alchemist, so I know a lot about philosopher's stones and how do you turn lead into gold, and all these stories of this is some type of a destiny, or a treasure to be hunted is this philosopher's stone, and the Centimani stone, which some would qualify as the philosopher's stone, came into my life in 2018 and led me towards a wild journey of finding a lot of pieces that make sense as to why San Antonio has been known as a cosmic city by the indigenous people. And if there's a layer of lead, and if I hint on it, I want you to grab some of this information and like, okay, he said layer of lead under downtown, and he also talked about philosopher's stone. Well, isn't that a stone that turns lead into gold? Well, doesn't it turn lead into gold and not gold into lead? Well, I mean, if you're an alchemist, you can go backwards and forwards. And what if there was just like an ancient preparation for a shift? Maybe there were people back in the day that had access to this ancient information that connected them to the cosmos in a way that they could predict, and not just predict, but knew the ebbs and flows and the contractions and expansions of the universe and the cosmos at large, and that our planet was due for a contraction again. And this contraction would mean that a lot of the information would be lost and would be buried, in order to be found again. And that's the excitement of what the cosmos does, is it buries its own things in order for alchemization to happen and for things to melt together, and then only the key pieces are to be uncovered again, to be, released from the hidden. These layers buried under mud and roads and buildings and wars and military bases, industrial military complex, and their notions of cybersecurity. Oh, where we would going too far ahead? Well, what is San Antonio now? If you look at one of the military bases, it has now been turned into the military industrial complex, and it is now the holder of Boeing and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, and you know it's here in San Antonio, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about why. And we look at all these other bases, and nobody really talks about San Antonio. I mean, they've done a really good job of disguising what was here, what has taken over, and not only that, what, but why has it taken over? Why, again, is five military bases that one is now turned into the military industrial complex right over the aquifer, the Edwards Aquifer, this place that has a layer of lead. Do they know why? Do they know about a layer of lead underneath downtown? Do they know about all the stories, the E.T. Mystery School at Almost Basin? Do they know about the stories of werewolves and Bigfoot and Thunderbirds, and all within the 1900s and the 19th century, the 20th century? Information that's not that far back, that we can find these stories and this information. Do they know about all this? Did those five military bases, through all their people and their ways of investigating and keeping track of everyone, do they know all these stories? Are they listening to me right now? Is this cybersecurity that is Techport, Port San Antonio, Boeing, and all this military industrial complex, are they listening to me now? And are these hidden layers, do they understand that they are missing the heart to connect free energy? And I say that, and I'm leaning ahead again, but Port San Antonio, Port Tech Arena has Tesla towers, and it looks like they be messy. Oh wow. It's got a ringing in my ear. They might be messing around with some free energy. And if you follow the signs of solar eclipses, and how NASA sent rockets into the paths of totality to measure the electromagnetic frequency shift, and then that just so happened to go over Enchanted Rock in 2024 with the totality eclipse. I mean, you might be finding and tagging on to some sacred information that isn't just pulled out of digital spaces, and by following people that are not coherent. Maybe you might only find this information through the official messenger of the cosmic event, the Herald. And so let's draw back here. Let's say San Antonio does have some hidden mysteries, or some stuff going on, and that also connects it to these ley lines, and you know so far gone that this place has had natural water flow that it has been forgotten. Maybe it has to do with the water. So what's the bridge? What's the connection to our ancestors' guidance, and that meets this practical action? Did our ancestors face adversity like this? Did again, were they prepared for the empires that they were a part of to naturally shift? Was it nature that did it, or was it an external source of like a set of people that conquested and took over and rewrote the history? Or was it just nature? Was this mud flood part of the reset? And the scragglers that were left behind just didn't know what to do with themselves, and maybe they found some ancient technology and maybe some didn't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what our military base has been here, is discovering what the freak is going on. And is San Antonio El Dorado? Is it the lost city of gold, or was it the city of gold, not lost then? And did someone accidentally turn the gold into lead? You know, questions, hypotheses, theories. These are all things that we can play with. And in this world of the imagination of the holographic matrix, the Herald is just inviting you to a playscape of your mind and your heart. And let's make some things make sense. And if they can make sense in our mind and our heart, then maybe we have an opportunity to shift them to full coherence of the mind and the heart. These are all just, it's just wordplay, but it's things that we see that I'm showing you in this real place, not just this holographic matrix, not just this idea, not this stuff that's just written in a book. You can walk San Antonio, you can walk Enchanted Rock, you can walk between here and there and everywhere, and find, answers all over nature. And so maybe our ancestors knew what was going to happen, and you know, they hid things in plain sight, and it's not some evil doer that did any of this stuff, but these are just patterns of the natural law of shifting and the cosmic play of forgetting yourself and remembering yourself, coming together. And so, what is the real call to action, right? Like, if I'm going to end this story, if I'm going to go through with this podcast, and I'm going to take you to Enchanted Rock, and I'm going to take you to these revelations of San Antonio, what may be hidden underneath, right? And then also, what is this ancestral guidance? What if they did know? What did they leave behind, and what does that mean? So I don't know. I'm feeling like they left access to free energy. They left information for particular people to bring that information to the resource holders, or maybe the resource holders are no longer going to be the resource holders, and the abundance card gets played, and the people that have been able to piece these, the puzzle pieces together, and this call to action again. What is it? What is it? What did they leave behind? What is it here to do? I would think that the ancients and this like golden empire, this Tartarian empire that was pre-mud flood, that was connected to the ethers and the free energy that Nikola Tesla was tapping into. This pattern, it has earlier nodal points that are very loud and poignant, and make a mark that people can find, and those within a harmonic resonance have found those nodes and are bleeding them through and making this node more exponentially louder as it adjusts the entire field of the old pattern into this new pattern. So this call to action. Hey, you know what? Maybe the herald, if there's a herald, right? If I'm the official messenger of the gods, and I am a herald of the heaven on earth now scenario, this cosmic event that brings us back to singularity, what would I find, right? If I'm the official messenger, what would I find in this cosmic city, in this place that's holding secrets? It would be free energy. It would be, finding that ancestral coherence with Mother Earth, and how the waters flowed, and how you grew food, and how you harvested energy from the ethers to heat yourself and cool yourself, and, build abundantly, and move things with your sound, and can make and build these beautiful structures as synergistically as you can with the people around you, instead of against them, and battling in capitalism in the way that puts everyone against each other. But these are the bleed throughs of harmony that are the overall pattern of the universe that creates a evolution. And so those bleed throughs are coming through in this city, and in the form of water, and a path, and a path that's being laid out for every single human being if they want to make that choice. Now, they can stand at the doorway of this path, or they can, ignore that there's a path there. Now, that's not really going to be for too long. I don't feel that this path is going to be a quiet path. I feel like we're feeling the pressures of being almost shoved through the doorway of this path that needs the world to jump on board, or I really just don't know. And this path to me, it's laid itself out before me, and when I turned 33, and it's my spiritual awakening, and this path, it's slowly crept in with a lot of information and a lot of action steps behind it, and that's where I've seen the most rewards, is when I've taken these very small steps towards this path and walking through that doorway myself. And that path is the path to embodiment. It's the higher self embodied. It's that ancestral self embodied. It's the now self, the powerful self, the all encompassing self that has all the answers when you sit in the 0 point of yourself, right? Which is your heart. And when I ask people to bring that heart coherence to the mind coherence, it creates this quantum shift of their heart space fluctuating into their crown, which is like the high information of the higher self, and how it creates this collapsing of a wave in order to clearly adjust its position from the heart into the crown as the new center point. And then that that empty space of where the heart used to reside creates a vacuum, and then that vacuum pulls the solar plexus into the heart space to find the magic of the unseen. And so this unseen world that I've been describing is it's very much seen, and I found it in physical ways and tangible ways, and so this fluctuation. And why is San Antonio also known as the 7th largest city in the nation? And it's San Antonio. It's these bleed throughs of coherence and harmony that come through, and very, ways that you really wouldn't expect, like ways that you get to play with them. Like you have to play like a Rubik's Cube with the words and the notions and the numbers and the time frames and the people, to create this like clear path to embodiment. And that is bringing back our natural ways of being in tune with the cosmos, and knowing that the weather's going to change at this time, and being prepared. Like prepping your bed, making your bed, getting everything ready, getting the bathtub ready. In this spiritual world, you will find people that say that they don't make plans, but I swear that they had to get up and go. Like if they had a job, they had to go to a meeting for an interview, and they had to make a plan for that. The notion of not making any plans and not preparing and just going willy-nilly through life is it's not only is it scary, but it's not always the safest route if you just walk in blindly to everything. You would find, as much as people want to say that they're not going to plan anything, that they're actually planning a lot of things. And so maybe it's just clarity on what they mean. They're not going to plan 5 months ahead, 6 months, 2 years. That's fine. But, nothing's stopping time. And to be caught on your heels. And look, and I'm going off on a tangent. Now I'm going to give you my tangent. I'm going to tell you why. In 2 years, we have why San Antonio, Enchanted Rock, and the solar eclipses, and why all these cosmic markers are speaking of some kind of large event that closes loops on so many things that it make your head spin. And so in 2027, if you haven't heard already, we have a totality eclipse that goes right over Egypt, right over Luxor, right over Temple of Hathor, and just so happens to be part of my journey in Enchanted Rock to connect, and without knowing, right? This is where we get to close the loops, and I'm personally closing a loop on my own story as to why I was guided to Enchanted Rock on 11/13/2012. Why was I invited, and why did the host have an activation for the Hathors in what would be in the future of a center of path of totality for the 2024 eclipse, and then the Temple of Hathor is in the center of the path of totality in Egypt for 2027. And then how nobody, who else is putting these key markers together? And that's what the herald's job is, and that's why I sit in this space, and why I'm honored to be here and guide you through this journey of embodiment that takes you into this cosmic self, that closes the loops on why do you have affinity towards Egyptian lineage and the Greek pantheon, and like all these, the Mayan and the Hopi, and what does all that ancestral knowledge mean if you can't use the messages that they left behind? They wrote them on stone. They put markers on geographical locations and built things over aquifers and water for a reason. They left all these signs here for a reason, and the ones that are going to be covered the most probably have the most amount of energy that's going to push through. And San Antonio has been buried. I believe, again, there's a lost city of El Dorado of gold that is underneath people downtown. I don't know how far it spreads out, but that gold was hit by two electromagnetic frequencies in the form of two solar eclipses that went over it in a matter of 6 months of each other. And there's a grand opportunity with this path to embodiment that's been laid out before people. And you know what? If some could see the messages clear enough and know that the world is in need of an assistance here, but you also notice that many people are stuck in this digital space, which is fine because it's how we can connect. So we use these opportunities to connect in these new ways. And so this new way is the Path to Embodiment app, that if you're listening to this, we are recording on the 13th of August, and we hope this app will be ready before and live before 2026. So we have a few months left for the year of 2026, leading into the 2027 totality eclipse. This Path to Embodiment will guide and urge people and prompt them to commune and steward Gaia, Mother Nature, to go out and investigate and find the answers that they've been looking for that would lead them, in my opinion, towards complete planetary free energy and food growing everywhere, and no longer needing the external sources of any kind of government, nothing to govern your mind. You are free to roam about this planet, and we will see and witness the shifting over the next decade, the next few years into the next decade or two, as we shift completely and rediscover these ancient tales of harmony and connection to the planet and the cosmos that would get humanity to a point of such regenerative ways of being autonomous, that the beings that our ancient ones were connected to, the star beings, our brothers and sisters from other places, will feel free to and safe to come down on our planet and intermingle with us on a cosmic expansion story for the ages. And so this path to embodiment is laid out in front of everyone. This will be a free app. It's a tool, not just an app for gathering. It's a point for those ready to walk in their talk. It's a community of events, guided practices, volunteer incentives, a shared resource mapping for the world. And it starts at the epicenter here, this cosmic city of San Antonio, and this is where this digital divide and this cosmic play of interacting with Earth in the most non-digital way, or physical self, intersects. This is where they meet. This is where this digital space, this technology, and these ancient ways and this ancient wisdom come to meet. And that's why San Antonio is a cosmic city. That's why solar punk is an ideology that I endorse, and why cyberpunk is the antithesis to the solar punk ideology. We don't want a dystopian future where we headsets are melted into our faces and our skulls, and we have implants of digital devices all over us, and we're cyborgish, right? No, that's not the world that we collectively envision. The world that we collectively envision is where food and autonomy and sovereignty is like the main drum beat that we dance to, and free food and free water and free energy and freedom of movement and healthier people and no more wars. That's the beat that we dance to. And so this new dance comes to a harmonic convergence, and the path to embodiment will not only guide you towards this activism and towards this walking the talk, but it would reward you with the volunteer incentives and what we were bringing to this planet for its ascension process. This is what I herald. And if you've made it this far into the podcast and you are down with the mission, then make sure you share the shit out of this. Share this stuff far and wide. Go back and look at the other sets of information that I put out in all the different ways, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, our Etsy site, so people can have our amazing crafted orgonite pendants that align you to your higher self. It's also that path to embodiment. It's not just these things. It's a supporting individuals in projects and missions that are here for your future generations, for your children. Like, these calls to action are not just for me and to me. It's for you. It's for your creations. I do this for my creations, for my children. And I implore everyone to do the same for your own creations, for your own children, for your own loved ones, your family. Those things that mean more than I can speak on. So, Enchanted Rock, my experience in this space, in that space, and the walk that I've taken, and this journey that has led to embodiment of my own, higher self. I mean, I feel like I've I can quantify my own shifting from my heart to my crown. I can show you when and where that happened and what that path to embodiment looked like through my eyes and through my experience and through my journey. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to inspire. I'm not here to make you do anything that I've done. You don't have to do any of that, but I know that you're going through your own process. We all are. I see it. This is part of my job, is to notice things and to pay attention. It only costs me time, which is actually pretty freaking valuable if you look at it, because we're all running out of it, right? Well, that's a lie. We're not running out of it. We're in cycles. We're running through, a process of expansion and singularity moments. And so it's our own ebb and flow of our conscious union of our divine masculine and feminine. So go find your counterpart, to go find the things that inspire you. And I hope that this did. I hope that this information resonated in a way that prompts you to share the shit out of all the stuff I told you to share. And that maybe you or someone in your community or your network purchases a pendant and helps with this mission until we get to a place of not needing a mission to be on. That we get to sit in our, the place that we've created and play in that for a while and just create. And it's not necessarily a global mission, but it's individual missions of creation and evolution that we're just walking around as a living embodiment of art and what that looks like in its truest form. And that would be the higher self, embodied. These missions of the Path to Embodiment app and tools to create heaven on earth and all these things, like that's fine and dandy, but I don't see that being a forever state that we're going to be in as well. So don't get stuck in that either. That's only a path to embodiment. At the end of the day, you're a walking piece of art, and everything that you touch is a creation of you. And so I hope, again, that made sense. And with that, we want you to love always in all ways. Peace.